So we are here with State Representative Colleen Garry, the incumbent representative for the 36th Middlesex District. We appreciate you taking the time to sit and talk with us.
My pleasure. Glad you could come over.
I guess first question right out of the gate is, I always ask the candidates why they chose to run. In your case, I guess it would be you've represented the area for quite a while.
Right.
I'm sure that every couple of years, as it gets time to make a decision, you have to decide whether or not you want to run again.
Right.
After these years of representing the district, what made you decide that you wanted to go in for another couple of years?
Well, it has been 24 years that I've been state representative, representing Dracut and Tingsboro. At one point I did have Dunstable, but we lost them in redistricting. But this has really become my life. I have dedicated my entire life to serving the people of Dracut and Tingsboro. I enjoy it. I still love the job. I still walk into the chamber and say, wow, I love it here. You get the opportunity to meet great people in the community. You have the opportunity to help people. That is the most important part of my job, is helping people. Getting to know them, being invited to things, and really getting to learn about their lives, and that never gets old. So I've had the opportunity to meet fantastic people. I think I have done a great job at representing them. Nobody can agree 100% with me. Even my mother wouldn't agree 100% with me. God rest her soul. But, I think most people that know me would not question my intention, that I would use my judgment on issues and represent the people of this district over leadership or the Democratic Party. This is a very unique district, and I think I know it pretty well.
This is a unique district, and actually it's a great segue to my next question, because over the course of 24 years, this area, certainly in particular Dracut, has changed significantly over the period of time. What are some of the changes that you have seen since you first were elected? How and because obviously that's something that you have had to pay attention to, had to be sensitive to.
Right.
What are some of the changes that you have seen gone on in the district, people-wise, demographically,
Right.
over the course of your service?
Well, I think, having lived here my entire life, I have seen a dramatic change. I mean, I remember when the tennis plaza was not there. I remember the houses that were put in where I used to play in the fields, candy fields and so forth. Geographically, it has changed from a lot of farmland, a lot of woods, to a lot more homes, and a lot more larger homes. So I think in that way, some of the, with the golf course and some of those homes being built, and out in Tingsboro as well, some big, beautiful homes out on, I was out there the other day on Thoreau and that area, Shakespeare and Thoreau streets. Very expensive homes. We still have those small cottages that used to be just summertime cottages who've been year-round homes now. I think that probably the most unique thing that has happened has been minorities moving in. I think we've seen a lot of African, whether they're Kenyan or Nigerian. We've seen some come in. We've seen a lot of Asian come in. And Indian. We have quite a few Indians as well. So I think the backgrounds of people are different. But I've also seen a lot of people who have come from the cities, who've come from Somerville, Revere, some of those outer places, looking for a small town feel, and that's what Dracut still has, and that's what we love about Dracut. So we need to continue to do economic development, but do it in the right places to keep that old small town feel here.
You get out and about a lot to different events and things going on in the community where you get a chance to talk to a lot of people. What are you hearing are the the top priorities, top concerns that people in the district have? What are they worried most about?
Well, I think the good thing is we don't hear as much about people needing jobs. It seems like the people who want to work are getting jobs, so that's a positive. Not like it was a few years ago. I think probably right now health issues are big, health insurance, education costs. I have twin nieces who are in college now, and realizing that one of them couldn't go to the school that she wanted to because it was $60,000 a year, and they were going to give her a $5,000 student loan. That's it. So I think some of her friends have had to hold off on college to be able to save money for it. I think that's a big part of it. I think people are still trying to get by on their budgets, and I think that's probably, I think healthcare, education, and keeping taxes low are the biggest issues.
Sure. You mentioned earlier about putting the needs of the constituents in the district, putting your loyalties to them above party, above leadership in the legislature. I have asked this question of all the incumbents that I've talked to. There have been some leadership issues. There have been some unfortunate leadership issues in the state Senate and the state House. How does a representative, particularly of the majority party, avoid getting sucked into too close a relationship with leadership where you do maintain your independence?
Right.
How do you avoid getting roped into the negative situations?
Well, I think I proved that back when Sal DeMacy became Speaker. I was with John Rogers, who was he had been an aide with me when I was a legislative aide. We were much more philosophically aligned, as I was with Tommy Fenneran, and so I was not on the winning side of that battle. And I didn't bash the leadership. I just voted the way I needed to vote. I didn't get up there and hammer them, and I think that they respect that. I can do what I need to do to vote for my district without causing a big stir. We see that sometimes in a couple of local legislators on the Republican side. So they do understand my district after all these years. They understand how conservative my district is. And like I said, I don't grandstand. I just do what I need to do. And I don't look for anything from them except help to get my local legislation through. And they respect that as well. I don't ask for a chairmanship. I don't ask for extra employees. I don't ask for anything huge. I just say, let me do my job, treat me fairly, and help me get what I need for my district, and that's fine.
You have described yourself in various interviews as being a conservative Democrat.
Right.
How do you define that? What does that mean to you?
To me, I think of JFK. We both have our Catholic upbringing. We have our beliefs. We want to help people to lift themselves up, but that doesn't mean we have to carry them the entire way. And I think that's you give the people the opportunity for projects or training and all that. If they're able-bodied, they don't spend their life on welfare. You help them, train them, help them get a job, and then they're on their own. I think that some of these social projects that are out there, they're just too forgiving and too lenient. I remember my sister worked at a local homeless shelter for families, and the parents weren't even allowed to wash their own clothes. And I sit there and say, well, what good is that? when they find an apartment, they're going to have to wash their own clothes. Give them something to do. Let them earn their way. Why would they have to hire somebody to do their laundry for them? This is not a hotel. This is something to lift them up and get them back on their feet. So I think that's the kind of Democrat I am, that we support people, we help them, but we don't let them just sit on everybody else's money.
Sure. It seems as though, and it's not just in, well, let me frame the question differently. You've got a primary challenger in Sabrina Heisey for the first time in a while.
Right.
Do you see, as an incumbent, do you see a primary race and a primary challenge to be, particularly where you guys seem to be very distinct individuals, is that a good thing for a party, or is it better for a party to have more of a unified front?
I think that there's always good to have challengers. I've never said, oh no, I don't deserve an opponent. Everyone should have an opponent. It makes me a better rep to do that. Keeps me on my toes. It keeps the campaign going. I think the difference is, and it's kind of ironic, is that this new group, whether they call themselves Our Revolution or Progressive Massachusetts or what Emerge, all these groups, they're touting tolerance in regards to the LGBTQ, they're in regards to a lot of different things, but then they're not tolerant of the fact that there can be differences within the Democratic Party. Instead, they say, you're not a Democrat. I've been a Democrat longer than my opponent's been alive. Don't tell me I don't belong in that party. I've been in the party. I've been the party. And it is frustrating for me that the group that's teaching tolerance and is trying to say that the big tent is not big enough for conservatives, when we've been fighting the battles all along. So yes, there is another branch of the Democratic Party. The unfortunate part is that some people are giving up. I am not giving up. I love this district too much to give up. I think that people need to be more tolerant, that there is, it really ticked me off when the head of the National Democratic Party said that no Democratic member, legislator, should be pro-life. Who is he to say that, So I will stand by what I am, and I am a Democrat, whether they like it or not.
Let me ask you a question on that, because and I was gonna touch on that. You kind of hit on it. I was gonna say not just in this district, but certainly across Massachusetts.
Right.
Absolutely, this is a thing. Your primary challenge is not unique. And I guess I'm going to ask for the voters for a definition to the other side. You described what it is to be a conservative Democrat.
Right.
Some would ask then, some in that movement that you talked about would say then, okay, that's where she's at, then why is she not a Republican? So what makes where you're at, what makes where you are a Democrat and not what people see as a conservative Republican?
Well, I think that that's where this all comes to. I think that the conservative Democrats and the more liberal Republicans are almost melding together, and that's what the middle class is. Then you've got the ultra conservative on the Republican side and the ultra liberal socialist on the Democratic side.
I see.
So I think that in some ways, those of us who are moderate or conservative, we've melded, and I think we are the ones that are representing the middle class in Massachusetts. I don't think the socialist branch, the Revolution, the Emerge, whatever progressive group, I don't think that they represent the average middle class. They are representing the poor, those who feel outside the ordinary, those who want equality amongst all financially, those who want to have everyone pay for education, health care, all of that. And that's really not how our society was set up. You know, everybody has opportunities, and you go forward and you work hard and you earn what you get. Granted, there are some who will always work hard and not attain that. But the American dream is that you can go to school, you can have that opportunity, you can make something of yourself, raise a family, and do well and enjoy life. What bothers me with the socialist end, which I would argue is my opponent, is that they can promise people the world. They'll promise free education, free higher education, more money for the schools, single payer health insurance, and all of these different things, more money for the police and the fire, and who's going to pay for it? We are all going to pay for it. You know, you look at Denmark, and they're paying for that health care, the single payer health care, 60 to 70% of their taxes, or their salaries go to taxes. Now you add on top of that free higher education. Oh, that sounds awesome. I would love that. I'm still paying my student loans. I would love that. But guess what? You can't choose to be an editor of a newspaper. The market's going to tell you, oh, I'm sorry, but we need plumbers. Bill, you have to be a plumber. You know, that's the difference. America, you earn your way. There are American dreams out there. We have opportunity. And, you know, you have to work for it. You have to, the opportunities are there.
Right. How have you seen, and I know over the last few years, there's been a new town manager in Dracut. How have you seen your working relationship and communication with the town leaders in Tingsboro and in Dracut?
It's been great. To be honest, the town administrator in Tingsboro, he's somewhat new as well. The assistant was a former intern of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In Dracut, Jim Duggan, you know, we text each other all the time. It's just been a wonderful situation. There's a constant, you know, back and forth. This is what I need. Can you do this? Can you, you know, there's always communication, which is great. And that's for the benefit of the town. You know, this Broadway Road project. I mean,
right.
we had a little bit of a scare because the Genesis needed a determination of need for the beds, and we were working it, and I was talking to Lieutenant Governor, and we finally got the approval of that. So that could have been a problem, but it was Jim that reached out to me and said, hey, I need your help with this, and we started making the phone calls. So there's always communication back and forth, and I think that I have a history of working well with people.
Great. It is kind of a conduit. The position is kind of a conduit between the state house, state government, and the local government. Correct?
Right. Absolutely.
That the position of state rep or state senator really is a connector.
Right. Absolutely. I always say it's three things. It's one, representing the town, advocating on the town as a whole. Two, it's voting on the legislation and working on all the committees that you serve on. I serve on judiciary, on revenue, on personnel administration, and redistricting. It is also serving the individuals in the community and constituent services. And it's never a dull day. There's always something, and they're always different, from trying to help somebody get into a nursing home, to helping with a handicap placard, to helping with a culvert in the town. I mean, we really do work with the Nikki Songas's office, with the soon-to-be whoever is that, right, congressman, a woman, and working with the town, working with private agencies. that's one of the things that I love is that I think I've become almost like an Eddie LaLasher. I would love to be at his level where people say, oh, if you have a problem, call Eddie. You
Right.
know, I hear now, oh, I didn't know who else to call, so I called Colleen.
Right.
You know, that's the reputation I want. I want to be the person that somebody calls when they need help.
You've served for 24 years. There is always a debate, an ongoing debate, and maybe there always will be, about should there be term limits to legislative offices, whether they be congressional offices or whether they be state house offices.
Right.
Um, there tends to be good arguments for and against.
Right.
I'm going to leap to the conclusion that at 24 years you do not support term limits.
Right.
What is the benefit of, or what I should say is, I guess, what is your argument against having term limits, about why it shouldn't be limited to, say, 10 years or something?
Well, I think the important part is experience does matter. Somebody told me yesterday it should have been my logo, experience wins. The idea that you know people, you know how to get things done, you know exactly who to go to. You have that institutional memory as well. So we try that back in the 80s? It didn't work. So why do we want to try it again? Correlating certain things like the no smoking zone to a child sex predator, not allowing them to live near a school. I use that as an example. Like we have the no smoking in the school zones, or no selling drugs in the school zones. Well, if we said you can't have a sex offender living within a mile of a school, a playground, a park, a library, daycare center, would anyone be able to live in the city of Boston? It would push them out here to the suburbs where they could actually find
true.
land. So you can think about things and how they've worked in other situations with that institutional memory. I think that we do have term limits. It's called the ballot box, and everyone has the opportunity to vote me out if they think I've been there too long. But certainly I've had tremendous support. I mean, we put up over 500 signs last weekend. We've got another 200 signs on order. People still emailing saying, I want to sign. So I think that I'm overwhelmed with the support, and we're going to keep on going until I don't want to do it anymore, or the people don't want me to do it anymore.
There have been issues, quite a few recently, and they have dealt with the LGBTQ community, the so-called bathroom bills, most recently the ex-gender bill on the licenses. You have had a more conservative stance on some of these issues, certainly more so than party leadership. Do you feel that, well, and I guess you said that the district is fairly conservative,
right.
So I'm guessing that you feel that you are accurately representing what the residents of your district feel on these issues. But has there ever come a point in 24 years where you have felt like you had to vote your conscience,
yeah.
and put that in front of maybe what the view was of most people?
Well, I think that it's a unique situation, and I've had a couple of different times, but the one that I really thought, I had over 1,000 people had signed the no marriage for gay and lesbian couples, and I voted to put it on the ballot for them. What people don't know is I was in a select group that was working behind the scenes. We worked with Liz Malia, who's currently a rep, John Rogers, Gino Flaherty, that was a former rep, who's now working for the mayor of Boston, Marie St. Fleur. We had some advocates from the gay and lesbian community. Frank Bellotti, the former attorney general, was in on this. And it was before the court case came down. And we were actually meeting to try to create the same rights and benefits to be allowed for same-sex partnership, whether it be under domestic partnership whether it be under a
Like a
civil union.
right?
We had that, and we said if the rights are there, the benefits are there, then the obligations are there as well, and let's do all that. And it was during the summer, and we were meeting. We'd met several weekends, and we were working on it. And I think Arlene Isaacson was in it, who's very involved with the gay and lesbian community. And we broke down at that one point, and I was so angry because I thought, some woman might have breast cancer and not have health insurance because we can't get this done. And it was probably 3 weeks later, I think, that the court case came down, and it was done. But, if you listen to opponents of mine, they'll think that I'm the most mean, hatred person in the world, and that I hate gay and lesbian and all of that. And I was actually working for them, trying to get this to a resolution. Sometimes you can't have 100%. You try to get to a compromise. And we thought we had the compromise that would work. I recently voted to mandate that the therapist, to stop the aversive therapists against the transgender kids and all that.
Yeah.
I see it in my court cases. The therapist is supposed to be there for the benefit of the child, not for the parent. They're supposed to be there and listen to the child, not to coerce them to do anything, not to push them to do anything, but just to be there and be their person that they can feel safe talking to. So, I take things in. I try to do the best I can. The pro-life issue, I voted against the so-called nasty, archaic bill, because part of that was it would eliminate the requirement that after 13 weeks that the abortion would have to be done in a hospital. Now, what people don't like to tell people is that abortion clinics do not have to be licensed. They don't have to be inspected. I'm looking out for the woman's health here. There was a 22-year-old woman who died down the Cape in 2010, I think. Laura Smith was her name. And she was a doctor who had graduated from Harvard. He didn't even have an oximeter on her. He didn't have oxygen available. The only person there to help him with the abortion was a woman who didn't even know CPR.
Wow.
The girl went into cardiac arrest. They delayed even calling the ambulance. A 22-year-old woman died. There's no inspections, no requirements. And that bothers me. And that's why I did not vote for that bill. Right. It's not that I think the people who commit adultery should be in prison. It's because we tried to get, as a compromise, we asked them, can we get licensing in there? You have to license your hair salon and inspect it. You have to license and inspect a nail salon. Why wouldn't you want to license and inspect a health facility? So, it's frustrating to be painted in a certain light. I am all for women and men, and all, but not. I'm not trying to deny them any health care, any access. But I think things like Planned Parenthood need to be honest about what they really are. I actually went for a tour in a Planned Parenthood years ago when we were doing the buffer zone. We went all the way through. We got to the counseling center, the room, and I said, "Oh, where's your information on adoption?" "Oh, we don't have any of that. People that come here have their minds made up." Well, are you really pro-choice if you're not giving them any choice? So, I think that people need to support women and be there. And one of my bills says you can't have, at some point during this process, your spouse or your significant other cannot be in the room with you to talk to somebody, because we have people who are coercing women into getting abortions. We've got to give the right information. We've got to be able to talk to them, and we've got to be able to let them have their own choice and not be pushed into something. So I'm not against women and women's health.
You've got people in the district on the progressive side who say you're too conservative. You've got conservatives in the district who literally online laugh about that and say that you are too liberal.
Right.
How does that make you feel? You're kind of getting it from both sides.
Well, it's not anything new. I've been called a dino, and the governor's a rhino. So, if you're not making anybody completely happy, you must be doing something right. You're getting the compromise, and you know, my father taught me as long as they spell my name right, it's okay. I've I've gotten thick skin, and I know that I'm doing it for the right reason. My father and mother were wonderful people, and they taught me just to do what I thought was right, even in the death penalty situation. My dad spent 9 years in the seminary, and when Jeffrey Curley's case was there, and it was one person's vote was going to change it, I was sure he was going to say, Colleen, you got to remember your Catholic background, but he didn't. He just said, do what you think is right, and I did. I voted for the death penalty that time. I met Mr. Curley on the way in and talked with him. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is Mr. Curley changed his mind on the death penalty too, just as Roe from Roe v. Wade changed her opinion on abortion. You know, people evolve and people learn more, and I think that's one of the things that I bring to this is I've been through an awful lot in my own life. My dad was a recovering alcoholic. Thank God he was sober 30 years when he passed away. He got very involved in AA, so I understand the addiction issues. You know, I've been watched my sister raise her family. I've helped take care of her children. I've seen my sisters go through college and all of that. I've gone through law school myself. But I've seen what people in the district have gone through, you know, whether it's the loss of a child, whether it's raising their own grandchildren. I see what happens in family court. I've listened to thousands upon thousands of hours of testimony from different people. And that is all in my head. That's definitely there. That's why this year when I got the Molly Bish Award, it struck me to the heart that all of my work to try to protect children was being recognized, and I could die happy that way, knowing that I got that award. So, you know, people are going through an awful lot in their lives, and we just try to be there to help.
Last question. With the opiate issue, it seems to just be taking all kinds of different forms,
Right.
and the numbers just are terrifying. What would you like to see done? How do you feel about what the state is doing? What would you like to see done on the state level to help the local communities to fight this?
Well, I think we are doing an awful lot. This is the third year in a row that we've addressed opioids in the legislature. Whether we're giving more money for more treatment centers, more beds. We're now putting out that Narcan can be given to anybody to carry, which is extremely important. We're now going to mandate that hospitals have methadone and Suboxone available to have people come down slowly off of it when they have an overdose. But those aren't just the issues, that the answers to that, because I did support the governor in mandating a 72-hour hold, because otherwise it doesn't make them have to be there.
Right.
You know, as I said, my dad was a recovering alcoholic. He took a 30-day inpatient treatment to be able to get away from life and focus just on that.
Right.
So I've heard arguments that things need to be scientific based and all that. Well, the 12-step program is still very, very good, and it's still working. And it may not be for everybody, but that's why we have the methadone. That's why we have the Suboxone. That's why we will try anything to save these lives. I had a constituent, she's in her 60s, call me and ask me what she could do for her son. He's in his late 30s, and she said, I give him money so he can go buy his drugs. You know, I don't know what else to do, so I refer them to Lowell House, and you know, we've got some great organizations up here, whether it's Megan's House or Zach's House or Lowell House. I think the recovery coaches that we're putting in this bill will be a tremendous help. It will get those people back to work, but it will be a lot like AA or an NA, people helping people.
Right.
So I'm a big believer that whatever we need to do, but we also have to remember those who are in chronic pain.
Right.
That they need something, and we're putting together a special commission to look at all the alternatives, including chiropractics, acupuncture, Reiki, all of those. We're open to anything to try to get this thing resolved. It's my biggest fear is being a practicing family attorney, and seeing the number of children who are losing their parents to this, and wondering how hurt these kids are going to be as they grow up, and what kind of parents they're going to be. We're talking a whole generation. So we need to give the services to those kids as well for what's going on.
Very good. Excellent. We have been talking with State Representative Colleen Garry, candidate for a re-election, and she is part of what will be the Democratic primary on September 4th. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
All right.